Ephesians, the 6th chapter, verses 15 through 16, and it reads, "And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield wherewith ye shall be able to quench the fiery darts of the wicked." And would you look at your neighbor and ask them, are you equipped for the battle? Are you equipped for the battle? And I do solicit your prayers. I do solicit your prayers. Well, there was an airline pilot, and this airline pilot was concerned about his wife's safety. And while he would be out, he figured that he would buy a dog to protect his wife while he was out. And he went to the pet store, and when he went in the pet store, he explained to the owner of the pet store that he wanted a dog to protect his wife. And the pet store owner went back into the back of the store, and he came out with this small dog known as the Pekingese dog. And the reason why it's called a Pekingese dog is because the dog originates in China, and it looks like a lion dog, and it's very, very small, and it doesn't get big, and it's referred to as a toy dog. And so when he bought the dog out, and the dog was running all around, and the man said, there is no way that this dog is going to be able to protect my wife, because this dog isn't big enough to kill a flea. So the man said, you just really don't understand that this dog knows how to do all kind of things, and this dog even knows karate. And he said, do you see that box over there? And the man said, yes, I see the dog. I see the box that's over there. And he looked at the dog, and he told the dog, he said, go and karate box. And the dog went over to the box, and he took the box, and he shredded the box. And then he looked over at the chair, and he told the dog, go and karate chair. And he went over to the oak chair, and he took the chair, and he turned it into toothpicks. And the man was so impressed that he said, this is the dog that I want. So when he got to the house, he came into the house, and his wife met him there, and she was barefoot, and she grabbed him, and she hugged him, and she said, well, what are you doing with that dog? And he said to her that I bought this dog to protect you while I'm out traveling and while I'm out doing my job. And she started laughing, and she said that you couldn't be serious, because there's nothing this little scrawny dog could do for me. And then he said, I'm serious, baby. This dog knows how to do karate. And she looked at him, and she said, you got to be kidding, honey. There's nothing that this dog can do. And she messed around, and she said, that dog can't do karate, my foot. And you know the rest of the story, what happened. I knew that one would get y'all. You know the rest of the story, and the attack would not have been so bad if she had been wearing her shoes and watched what she said. And the first piece of armor that I'm going to deal with is the third piece of armor that Paul mentions in Ephesians 6, and that is the shoes of the preparation of the gospel of peace. And one thing I love about Paul is not only did he write about the armor of God, he also wore it. And in other words, he practiced what he preached. And there's an account recorded in Acts the 20th chapter where Paul had been summoned of the Holy Spirit to go to Jerusalem. And the brethren there in this scene in the text were sitting there trying to talk him out of going, because it had been prophesied the fate that awaited him there in Jerusalem. But his faith allowed him to answer the call. And would you look at your neighbor and ask them, are you ready to answer the call? And I can remember when I was a little boy, there was a song that the old saints would sing. And the song said, are you ready to answer the call? Have you been faithful to Jesus at all? And if an angel were to call you into judgment right now, are you ready to answer the call? And yes, Paul was ready to answer the call, because he had his feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. And if anyone is wondering why do we need shoes for the spiritual battle, I'm glad you asked, because I'm getting ready to tell you. Number one, feet are important, and sometimes we take them for granted, and I'm sure our feet feel walked on all the time. And the scripture that we're focusing on this afternoon talks about feet, and the real important thing is that our feet are to be protected with care. Feet are our foundation, and it's important that we protect them. And if you ever got up in the middle of the night and tried to get out of the bed in the dark, and you stepped on something and hurt your feet, you know just how important it is to have your feet protected. How many people in the house know that when your feet hurt, it feels like your whole body hurts? You can't do anything that involves standing or walking because your feet hurt. Feet are our foundation. And feet have two main purposes. The first purpose of feet is to get us where we're going, and the second purpose for our feet are to keep us standing where we are. And if you think feet aren't important, you need to speak to somebody that doesn't have any, and they'll tell you how important it is to have feet, because we tend to notice the importance of something when we have problems with them or we don't have them at all. Well, Paul has been talking about the armor of a soldier in the verses that we've been reading, and when a soldier is in battle, if he lost his footing, it could be the cause of his death. And when you are in battle, if you get knocked off your feet, you're in trouble, because you can't defend yourself when you're laying down on the ground. And the ability to stand is vital. And that's why the soldier's shoes are important as a part of the equipment of the soldier. The shoes that were worn by the soldiers in those days look very similar to the cleats that our athletes wear on today. They had knobs. They had some kind of knobs on the bottom that allowed them to have traction in the ground, so that they were able to dig in the ground and have traction to be able to move when it's time to move and stop when it's time to stop. In the battle, the soldier has to have sure footing, and slipping could mean the end of his life. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, we got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. But being from a country town in Florida, it helps you to understand why certain tires and certain types of shoes have traction on them. Because in the town where I'm from, all the roads aren't paved. We have some unpaved roads, and when it begins to rain, those roads start to get quite muddy. And if you don't have those type of tires on your car, you're going to sit there and just spin, and you're not going to be able to move. And being stuck is a frustrating thing, and it can also be harmful. But tell somebody again, we got to keep moving. The funny thing is that there are a lot of people who are just plain stuck in life. They all fall down in circumstances, and they're not able to move forward, and they're not able to move backwards. They're stuck right where they are, and they get frustrated in life, and they want to move forward. They want things to change, and they want their life to improve, but they just can't seem to get things moving in the right direction. And the more frustrated they get, the more they start to worry. And the more they start to worry, the more peace is lost in their lives, and it starts to cause problems. But is the battle with the world around them? As much as it seems like it, it's not. Is the battle with the people that's around them? And as much as it seems like it from the way that people can treat you, it's not. How many people know that we are in a spiritual battle? Look at somebody and say, this is a spiritual battle. The circumstances in life that get people stuck really come from the spiritual battle that takes place around us every day. And we have to understand that the foundation in life that allows us to move forward and keep our feet fitted in the ground is the gospel of peace. And Ephesians 6:10 says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And if the gospel of peace is so important, and if it's so foundational, then we need to understand what it is. Well, our English word gospel comes from the Greek, and it's translated to mean the good news. And it raises a question in my mind. When is the last time you told somebody about the good news of Jesus Christ? As men of God, as people of God, we are supposed to have peace in our lives. It's because of the good news that God made it possible for us to be right with him by dying on the cross, and he made it possible for us to be forgiven. And isn't that good news? I want to ask you again, when was the last time you told somebody about the good news of Jesus Christ? And it amazes me that so many church members claim to be Christians. So many of us claim to be Christians, but we spend more time beating people down with negative things and focusing on the negative when we're supposed to be telling telling people about the good news of Jesus Christ. And it's no wonder that people say the things about us, because I'm including me, that they do, is because we're not focusing always on the right things, because our primary job is to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. And now that brings me to my next question. What is peace? Well, peace is the spirit of tranquility. It is not being disturbed. Peace is to have freedom from disturbance, we need to have peace from disturbance from either the outside or the inside. And how many people know that disturbance doesn't always come from the outside? It can come from the inside too. Peace comes from security, that hearing from God and hearing the good news builds our trust in God. And look at your neighbor and say, there is peace in the good news. There is peace in the good news. And let me move on. I'm going to move on to the shield of faith. And the shield of faith is the fourth piece of armor that Paul mentions in Ephesians 6. And it is the shield of faith. And in these fleeting moments, I'm going to talk about how the Roman soldiers used the shield and the purpose that the shield serves for us on today. Are y'all praying for me? Well, the Bible in Daniel, the 3rd chapter, records the story of the fiery furnaces. Does anybody besides me remember that story? Well, these three men were looking at the site where they were to be put to death, and the word had gone out that they were to be thrown alive, bound into the fiery furnace that was heated 7 times its usual temperature. And to everybody watching, it was clearly understood that this was getting ready to be an execution. And this is what you had coming to you when you disobeyed the king. And just a few moments ago, the 3 men had been given a chance to turn this situation around. And it could have been turned around by nothing more simple than just a few motions on their point. But they decided that they were going to believe and stand for what they believe in. And look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, we're not going to bow. And we're not going to bend. You have to know what you stand for. And the king had previously set up a 90-foot golden statue, and at various times throughout the day, which were to be prompted by music, he had commanded that his people fall down and worship the golden statue. And out of an entire nation were given the names of only 3 men that had the courage to stand against the royal decree. And those 3 men were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they were getting ready to die. And once, like I said again, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And when King Nebuchadnezzar became aware of the insubordination, he summoned the rebels and gave them an ultimatum. And he said, basically, worship this statue or be thrown into the fiery furnace. But their response is preserved in Daniel, the 3rd chapter, the 16th through the 8th verses. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this is the case, our God in whom we believe is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand. O king, but if not, that's the positive, that's real. Let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve the God, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up." And the faith of these 3 men allowed them to stand up to one of the world's most powerful men and refuse to follow his blasphemous orders. And they were to be thrown in the furnace, but God miraculously delivered them unharmed. But the most amazing thing about this story is their unwavering dedication to God in the face of an unknown outcome. They were strong enough to accept the fact that they might even lose their lives. And it left me saying, "Lord, increase my faith." Can somebody shout yes? Yes. Well, up until now, Paul's description of the armor of God has been limited to things that we wear. We put on our belt. Yes. We put on our breastplate. Yes. We put on our shoes. And they essentially hold themselves up. Yes. But the shield is different. Paul talks to us about the shield, and he tells us that it's something that we must take off. Something that we are required to raise. And just strapping it to our arms won't do us any good unless we do what? Raise it up. Yes, God. Look at somebody and tell somebody, you got to use it. The Roman soldier, the Roman shield that they were used is not the medieval looking shield that we're used to looking at today. When we think about the movies that we see and the cartoons that come on, we think about the shields that we see them fighting with. But the shield that the Roman soldiers used was a very different type of shield. It was large, but the thing that was different about it is that it was rectangular in shape and it was rounded around the front of it, and it had a knob in the middle on the back that was called a knob. And with the knob, that was the part that you used to hold whenever you were when you were getting attacked by the enemy. But the Roman soldiers had an impressive line of defense because of the shield, and because of its size, soldiers were afforded a great big deal of protection from the enemy, and because of its slight curve, they were able to deflect the attacks from the enemy without transferring the full force of the assault to the man holding the shield. And what this means to us is that we use our shield of faith. The arrows that the devil shoots are going to hit the shield and fall off. So when depression hits us, when it comes to water, it's going to hit the shield and do what? When the devil sends sickness on our bodies, like he tries to do, when he tries to send sickness on our body, it's going to hit the shield and do what? When the devil tries to attack our finances, which he normally tries to do, it's going to hit the shield and do what? Do I have any fake people in the house right now? Somebody can ask for his faith. Since we're talking about faith, Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is not saying, I believe, because you can say it till you get pink in the face, until you really believe it down in your heart. Nothing is going to change. Faith is knowing that our heart is in Jesus and He's our all in all. And no matter how it works out, God is working things out in our faith. Yeah. Look at somebody and tell them, I know my faith is real. Why do we need faith? Because we don't need faith for things we can see. We need faith for things that we cannot see. And as I get ready to close, I'm going to tell you 3 things that a shield can do, and I'm going to take my seat. And somebody shout glory. For my note takers, number 1, a shield guards. Can you say a shield guards? A physical shield protects us physically, like faith protects our spiritual life. When Satan, through Nebuchadnezzar, attacked the values of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were able to stand firm and unwavering in their faith. And in their response, they said, God is able to deliver us from this fate. And we don't know if He will or if He won't. And really, that really doesn't even matter. He gave us His command that He's going to be with us regardless of the outcome. And we know from the Bible He can even raise us from the dead. We're going to move on to number 2. And for my note takers, a shield deflects. And Satan is always hurling his fiery thoughts of fear, doubt, and worry in our direction. But the only time he can hit us is when we let our shield down. Look at your neighbor and say, don't you let your guard down. Don't you let your guard down. We have to believe that God is in control, and that He's working everything out in our favor. And no matter how it comes out, it's going to be for the best of all that are involved and love the Lord. That shows that we are using our shield of faith. And we have to remember that we have our shield of faith, because when you're in battle, you don't want to take every hit to your head. You don't want to take every hit to your arm, because after a few hits to the head, you're going to be down for the count. So we have our shield of faith, and it's our job to use it. Would you nudge somebody and say, where is your shield? And I know you're saying, Brother West, what can I take? Can you tell me another thing that the shield does? And that brings me to point number 3, and it says that a shield can incapacitate. And I know you're saying, what does incapacitate mean? And it means to take away strength or to take away power. And when Christ was was tempted by Satan, his faith in the word and commands of God repelled Satan even for a time. And Hebrews 4:15 tells us that Christ was tempted in all things. And so this was not the first time that Christ had an incident and an encounter with the Satan, but the boss, the metal knob in the middle of the Roman shield, allows the soldiers to give their enemies a stunning shove. And I know you're saying, what in the world is a stunning shove? Well, I'm getting ready to tell you, a stunning shove is a shove that we give to the enemy that he's not even expecting. And the one thing that I don't like about the devil is that he operates on a surprise gotcha style, and that shouldn't be a surprise to us, because the Bible says that the devil comes before to kill, steal, and to destroy. And this shouldn't be the case with us, because if we have our shield, we're going to be ready and we can give him a stunning shove. And so when all hell breaks loose in our house, we're going to give the devil a surprise by giving him a what? Stunning shove. When the devil makes us mad and we want to leave the church, instead of leaving, we're going to stay get even stronger, which gives the devil a what? When it seems like the more we read our Bible, the more hell breaks loose. Instead of stopping reading our Bible, we're going to continue and keep on reading, which gives the devil a what? Do I have anybody in the building that want to help me give the devil a stunning sword?